Today we are going to learn about a feature called dynamic data masking in Azure SQL Database. We are going to understand the concept first and then we will do a practical example after we understand the concept. Dynamic data masking in Azure SQL Database helps us in hiding the sensitive information to unauthorized users without changing any line of code. That means if the person is having access to view the data in the plain text, yes, it is allowed. In case if the person is not authorized to view the data in the plain text, then we can hide that as well. This functionality can be achieved using dynamic data masking. Basically, dynamic data masking lets you mask sensitive information. We can do this at column level. An example, here is how dynamic data masking works. Basically, it lets us mask sensitive columns like credit cards, email addresses, or any other personal information so that unauthorized users see obfuscate data. For example, uh, here the credit card, in the credit card numbers, some of the numbers are masked in stars. Same thing can be applied for email addresses, names, date of births, or any other custom columns. It includes strings as well as numbers as well. When we enable dynamic data masking, the internal data which is stored in the database is not going to be changed. Instead, when non-privileged users access the data, then they will see some custom characters like stars instead of the real data. Dynamic data masking is a policy-based security features that hides the sensitive information in the result of the query. Now, how do we implement dynamic data masking in Azure SQL? Dynamic data masking automatically hides the values for unauthorized users. Only the users who has a permission called unmask will be able to see plain text. Masking can be achieved in two ways. Option 1, to use SQL script. Option 2 is via SQL. Option 2 is via Azure Portal. In option 1, which is SQL script, as you can see, we need to use the masking functions that are available in SQL Server. For example, here we are creating a table called customers, which has two columns. The first column is name, whose data type is envarchar. The second column is email, which is also envarchar. However, email is a kind of personal information which should be masked for non-privileged users. So here for email, we are using a constraint called mask with a function email. Email is a built-in mask function. So when we create this table with this mask function, only privileged users will be able to see the plain email. Non-privileged users will see some special characters like star. The option 2 is from Azure Portal. All we need is go to SQL database and navigate to the blade called dynamic data masking, where you can choose a table and you can choose a specific column and apply the mask function. So there are multiple built-in functions like default, email, partial, random, and of course there are other things for dates as well. Let's now see how to unmask the data in Azure SQL. By default, only the administrators or DB owners can see unmasked data. For rest of all the users, we must grant unmask permission explicitly. And this unmask permission can be given at entire database level for a given user, or schema level, or table level, or individual column level as well. I would recommend you to use the least privilege principle, wherein you grant only what's needed. For a given user, if you want to allow him or her to access to view plain text for a given table, then I would say you grant unmask permission only on that particular table. That's the best practice. And please remember, dynamic data masking works without making any code changes, either in your application or in SQL scripts. Let's now see how all this works practically. I'm logged into Azure Management Portal and I have a SQL server, and in that SQL server, I have a database called database one, and I'm logged into this database using SQL Server Management Studio. Currently, I do not have any tables. I do not have any users created. So let me go ahead and create a new table. I already have some scripts. So let me copy paste and run those scripts which will create the tables. First, I'm going to create a schema called data, and then in that schema, I'm going to create a table called membership. As you can see here, this membership table has multiple columns and masking is applied on multiple columns. First is first name, wherein we are partially masking except the first and last character, rest of it is all masked. Then we are using mask called default for phone, email for email, random for discount code, and default for birthday. Based on the data type, this default function will take care of masking. Now we have table created. So let me refresh here. We should be able to see the new table created here. Now let me also go back to the portal and then to SQL. I will navigate to data masking feature here. Now we have a schema called data. In that we have membership table, and these are all various masking rules applied on individual columns. So in this dynamic data masking blade, we see all these masking rules. And if you want to add additional masking rules on this particular table, then we can also click on add mask and apply masking rule for this column as well. But I don't want to do that, so I can click on discard. Now, because I already added all the masking rules, this page is showing us all the masking rules. In case there is no column which is masked, then right from this page, we can add all the masking rules. That's what we just did for last name. So let's go back to SQL Server Management Studio. Now let's insert some data into this table. I'm inserting couple of rows into this table. There is a typo here. Yeah. So now we inserted those 4 records. Now I am logged in as SQL admin here. This guy is a complete system administrator. Now let's see what this guy sees. When I run this select star from the table, I can see all plain text. And because I am the administrator, I should be able to see all plain text. Let's now create some users with different roles. And then we will log in with those users and see what would happen. I'm going to create 2 different users. One is a normal SQL developer, and the other one is maybe an HR professional. So I create these 2 users. Now I'm going to give some roles to these guys. First, let me give permissions to SQL developer. So I'm giving data reader role to SQL developer. I gave data reader permission to SQL developer. Now let me also give similar permission to HR. Both users are created and roles are created. As you can see here, HR is created and SQL developer is also created. So now let me connect to SQL database using both the developers. So for example, I will log in with SQL developer. and this guy will have access only to database one. So ensure that you choose the database in the connection properties tab. Otherwise, it will try to connect to master database for which SQL developer will not have access. So ensure that you choose the database name. And now I got connected to the database one database using the SQL developer. Let me also log in to the same database using HR. So now I will connect to the database, same database with different users. All right. So now I have three windows. In the first window, I have admin. Then here I have SQL developer. And in the third query window, I logged in with HR. So when I run the select statement as an admin, I see plain text. Now, if I run the same query with SQL developer, I should not see plain text because this guy, the SQL developer, doesn't have any unmasked permission yet. This guy only has data reader role. So we should see now some masked content. You see, all the columns except last name are masked, including the birthday. This is not real birthday. 1900 0101 is not the real date of birth of all these people. Let's now check the same query with HR. Even it's the same. So even HR guy is seeing the masked data. Now in real world scenarios, because this is a membership table, maybe HR guys might have unmasked permission. So now let me go back to my admin login where I'm going to provide unmasked permission to the HR user. I can provide unmasked permission at entire database level for HR or maybe on individual schemas or individual tables or individual columns as well. To make it simple, I'm going to grant unmasked permission on data.membership table. Let me copy paste this table name to the user called HR. This is how you grant permission on a specific table to a particular user. This unmask can be granted to a user or even to a group if at all you have groups. Now let's go to HR login. So far earlier when I ran it, I was not able to see all plain text. So now let me run this. Now because we gave unmasked permission to HR user, I can see all plain text. These are real phone numbers, these are real email addresses of the user. This is how data is stored inside the database. So without changing anything in the code, which means here we are using SQL. So without changing anything in the code, we were able to mask and unmask. All this is controlled by that specific single rule. I hope you are going to use this kind of masking features in your projects. In case if you have any challenges in implementing this or if you have any questions, please feel free to post your questions in the comment section. I will try to answer them. Thanks for watching. If you think you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.